At a time when every dollar counts, Capital Ford in Santa Fe is stepping up and offering employee pricing for everyone. Yes, employee pricing for everyone is now available on new Fords. You pay what Ford employees pay. Employee pricing means save up to $9,000 off MSRP on a new 25 Ford F-150 or save up to $4,800 off plus 3.9% APR on a new 24 Ford Bronco. From America, for America. We're Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the Pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble!
Good evening, everyone. Happy June 2025. We welcome you to another edition of Road to the Pit Live. Road to the Pit Live is a live show and podcast where we interview New Mexico basketball players and coaches. It is produced by New Mexico Alumni Media. It is part of the Pit Press platform. A reminder to check us out at our YouTube page at @BPitPressNM and hit subscribe. Check out our content. We've got a lot of live shows covering high school and college sports in the state of New Mexico. Also, check out our website, thepitpressnm.com. We've got a lot of written content in the news and commentary section, as well as the Pit Press Plus. Also, like us on Facebook, Instagram, and X. I'm one of your co-hosts, Nick Nunez. Your other co-host is the voice of Western New Mexico Athletics, Ed Nunez. Dad, how are you doing tonight?
Son, great job introing the show. And again, I'm just going to say this about Eric Moulton and Ryan Tamori's vision for this. And you mentioned that. Look where we're at. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's something that it's growing. We're proud to be a part of it. So, yes, without further ado, son, get us into our guest tonight.
Our very special guest is the starting center for the Corona Vaughn girls basketball team. She is an ESPN Women's Top 25 recruit for the class of 2027. She holds the record for the most blocked shots by any high school player in New Mexico high school basketball history. Off the court, Harper excels in the classroom, and she participates in Future Farmers of America, where she raises, shows, buys, and sells cattle. Harper Dunn, thank you for joining us here on Road to the Pit Live.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here today.
So, Harper, you just finished up a tryout with USA Women's Basketball U16, the national team trials. Those were held in Colorado Springs last week from May 21st through May 26th. 52 players from the class of 2027 from all around the country went out and tried out for a 12-team roster. You made the first cut that cut the original 62-woman roster down to 22. You see your name there on the graphic, kind of in the left column in the middle there. Please tell us what that experience was like for you and what you enjoyed the most.
I'm really, really grateful for it. I mean, you're playing against the best players in the country, and there's nothing like it. It's a really great experience. I made friends from all over the country, and, I got to play basketball at the highest level. And, I'm just a really positive experience. I learned a lot as a player and as a teammate out there as well.
Harper, tell us about the selection process. There's not a lot of players from the state of New Mexico, probably in our state's history, that have been selected to play for Team USA at any level. What was that selection process like? How were you contacted, and how did you ultimately get the invite to try out?
So I actually first attended their mini camp, and I actually learned through my principal. I was just going to English class one day, and she walked up to me and she was like, "Hey, I think this is for you." And I looked at it, and I'd been working for this for years and years and years, just really hoping to get the chance to go. And so I read it, and I was like, oh my goodness, I actually get to go. So I immediately called my parents, and I was like, hey, you guys would not believe what I just got. And so I got to go to that mini camp in Tampa, and that was a super positive experience. And then about a month before the trials, I got another just like the one from Tampa, an invite to the USA trials. And so my parents called me, and we were like, okay, well, what's our game plan? What are we going to do? And so we just worked from there.
Walk us through the experience, Harper. We've got some photographs of you, action photos from Team USA's X page. Also, your father, Blair Dunn, was gracious enough to provide us with some photos. There's a shot of you there shooting a layup. And we've got a few others, but I'm just curious. It sounds like it's about 5 days worth of scrimmaging, drills, things like that. Just kind of explain to us what that experience was like.
So we did a total of 7 sessions, and these sessions could range from an hour and 30 minutes to 2 hours. And it was really good. So we started off, just stretching your normal stuff, and then we went through some shooting drills. Then, something that I don't think you see everywhere is the intensity, all throughout. It never wavered, not once. And, all these girls were there just to compete, and so we held each other up and held each other accountable as far as energy. And so we did some drills, we broke into positions a couple of times and worked with some coaches, and then we did a lot of scrimmaging.
And then Harper, I'm going to turn it over to my dad after this question. Making the first cut, you go from 52 girls down to 22. I think the first cut was announced on that Saturday or that Sunday. But the number of girls was cut in half, and you were in that first cut. What did that mean to you as a player?
It meant a lot. It meant that, what I was doing was the right thing. So my goal for going to this, because, it's not an easy thing, and a lot of people get cut and don't make it, was to just leave it all out there. Leave all my energy, leave all my effort out there so that I could go home no matter what, satisfied with what I put forward. So it was nice to get to continue that journey, and I made a lot of really great friends, and then it was really nice to make the second cut.
Dad, I'll turn it to you.
Harper, we say that you've received some great coaching at Corona from your stepmother, Becky Preston, from your father, Blair Dunn, from Chris Pettis. But I got to ask you this, man, when you put on that Team USA jersey, it's a little bit different. And again, no disrespect to Corona where you play. That means something too. But I got to ask you about any nerves at all, because I'm thinking about it. You're coming into this, this camp with the best players in the U.S., the best high school girls players. How were your nerves? I got to ask that. Was there any nerves there, any butterflies? Because I'm thinking about it, and I know I would have been a little nervous, a little, you want to prove yourself. Iron sharpens iron, right? You want to do your
Yes,
best.
sir.
Where was your nerves at? Your nerve level?
Oh, I would say they were really high. I would be lying if I said I didn't have substantial nerves. But I think I mentally prepared myself, and my family and all the people around me helped prepare. So I had specific little goals that I knew that I could do there. I'm playing against the best players in the country. I'm not going to be able to just have a 40-point game or anything like that. So I needed to do the little things like communicate on defense, get offensive rebounds, box out, just the little things. So that really helped calm my nerves to direct them into a certain place. But they were for sure there. And the excitement was also there. So I think in the end, the excitement for the opportunity really outweighed the nerves.
I wouldn't doubt that. And adrenaline, every drill, every something. Someone's got something to prove, man. Right? I would think. I mean, because these girls make you better, yeah, you make them better. So I would have loved to have seen that. I've been around a lot of basketball throughout my life, and yes, I'm sure you performed very well. You're very fundamental.
Thank you.
Yeah, you don't have these records, and you mentioned that about, and we'll get to that later. About, I still remember what you said 2 years ago about blocking shots. Be smart about them. Don't try to get them all. Don't want to get any dumb fouls. I remember you saying that. I got to ask you, how do you feel you performed against competition from USA basketball? We've got this quote, Harper Dunn. This is from Prep Girls Hoops, specifically Brandon Newbins. Harper Dunn played with a physical edge, seeking out rebounds and altering shots at the rim with consistency. She showed comfort operating with her back to the basket, using solid footwork to carve out space. Her interior presence made her a reliable option on both ends. So how did you feel? That's a heck of a quote. That is.
Yes,
Again,
and
yeah.
I'm very, very grateful for that quote, and it means a lot. Just that the little things are getting noticed. But yes, it was the best players in the country, and I just tried to do what I could, and no matter what, I just tried to put as much effort as I could out there. So.
Like I said, it's got to be, man. I could just imagine, just every possession, every something something's on the line there. Again, you made friends, and these are friends that you'll follow each other for the rest of your careers, and maybe into college and beyond that. You also play for Club Moken, which plays AAU basketball on the EYBL circuit. So you're getting, how did this experience, and it's a great one, man. And then the coaching, right? The coaching, the individual coaching. How did this? I'm sure your game. How do you feel this improved your game?
Well, I'd just like to start off by saying, going back to that coaching, there was some really amazing coaches there that really know the game of basketball and helped facilitate that there. And then the girls, they really were the best talent in the country, some of the most athletic people I've ever seen, and super, super talented, and a really great group of girls. And I would say that it definitely helped. My skills, just as far as knowing what works against the best competition in the country, knowing what I can stay true to even at the hardest times, and then a little bit of confidence, like okay, I can do this. But yeah, it was just a really great experience and a really great group of people, and I know they're going to go win us a gold this year. So.
Well, it's a good thing too, because Corona and in the division you play, you're the biggest player, tallest player in that class. So going up against other bigs, they're not going to just give you space. They're going to make you work for it. You've got to work on the block and work on things it must have made you worlds better, because that's competition, the coaching, specific ways to get position. You already have the fundamentals there. You've received good coaching. So that had to have taken your game up at least a couple more ticks, which is exciting. And I'm excited for you to have had that experience. And there's some more pictures of you. But I got to ask you, you mentioned the relationships and friends you built with Team USA. I'm going to give you an example. And this is years ago. I was lucky to play in the North-South game of 1980. And I've still got friends from that. I'm still in touch with some teammates from that team, about 3 or 4 of them. So it's a lot different now, though. Social media, Instagram, Snapchat, the whole thing. Talk about the relationships and friendships you built with Team USA basketball.
Yes. So it's kind of like a little club, right? We're about to all go through this major struggle and push our bodies to the absolute limit, just to try to get a chance. And so I think there's all that kind of unity within all 52 of us of like holding each other up and like we can do this as a team. I mean, we're all trying out. There's only 12 spots, so really it's the best of the best that make it. But there's friendship and unity, and so I was really fortunate that I met some girls that I got along with. The whole group was really great. All 52 of us got along really well, so it was a blast. We got to do some card games and stuff like that, but it was a really great time. So,
Son, back to you.
Harper, to show you and our viewers, I got my Corona Cardinals shirt on in honor of
very
the time.
good.
Yeah, in honor of the time that I went to go watch you play 2 seasons ago when you guys beat Alamo Navajo. I'm hoping this next season that ProView Networks is able to make a couple trips out to Corona to come stream some of your games. I think that would be super rewarding for the state of New Mexico to get you put you on a live stream. But I wanted to ask you about your sophomore season with Corona Vaughn. The stats that are available on Max Preps, courtesy of your head coach, Terry Racher: 22 points per game, 19.8 rebounds per game, 7.5 blocks per game. The graphic we have up on the screen now is courtesy of Marty Seiss, historian that covers New Mexico high school basketball. He posted this in the NMOT Sports Facebook page. Shows just some of the records that you set here this season. 186 blocks in the season, which was second all time to the record that you set last year, your freshman year, where you set the state record for 202 blocks in one season. This year, you etched the history books, something that no player has ever done before. 506 blocks in your career, and you still got 2 more years to play. You broke the record earlier this year, February 18th, at a game at Alamo Navajo. You had 8 blocks in that game. So you are the state leader in total blocks. What does that mean to you, Harper?
I think it means a lot, but it is just a number. And I think it matters more about the people that were there with me along the way. I'm, grateful to have that, but I really don't think I can be the one that just takes credit for that. I have a bunch of really great coaches around me, and I have really good teammates that help me out and help me through all those. So yes, all those stats are great, but I'd say that the memories that came with them and the experiences are so much better.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And tell us about your season this year with Corona Vaughn. Harper, you guys were 22-4 this season, lost in the quarterfinals to Fort Sumner House. But you guys played them tough earlier in the year. And anyone who watches 1A basketball, you guys had a tournament in Santa Rosa. You guys took Fort Sumner House, who was the state champion, I believe, from the year prior. You guys took them to overtime. It seems like you guys were competitive. I mean, you guys were 22-4 in the season, but against good teams, you guys really stacked up against good competition. Tell us how you think your season played out this year.
I think we had a really good season, and last year we're young, and sophomore season can be a little weird, and we had about 4 sophomores starting, and so I think, at least for me personally, I was still learning a lot about what that meant in high school sports. And I think we had, I know we ended in the same spot we did the year prior, but I think we had a lot of growth as a team throughout the season. And then we implemented some stuff that we had real issues with last year, and we didn't have those issues this year. So I was really proud of us. So I'm super
Go ahead.
sorry.
No,
and really
finish.
Excited for the coming seasons.
Yeah, it seems like I was looking at your guys' roster. You guys had 2 seniors on the team last year, so a substantial amount of the team is coming back. So that's got to be exciting for you guys for sure.
Yes, sir. And I would say we have really good team chemistry. So I think we're headed in the right direction.
Dad, I'll turn it to you.
We didn't want to leave out Coach Racher. She's also been a part of your coaching tree in Corona, for the last 3 years, and you're going young. So there's improvement to be made during the summer. You already had how many young ladies get to experience that going to a USA team camp? That's amazing, man. I'm really psyched for that, and only make you a better player for sure. We want to talk a little bit about your recruitment. Over 24 offers from D1 schools, many of them a Power Fours. Offer sheet includes right now University of Iowa, Ole Miss, Michigan, Kansas, and many more. Now, you've got a lot of things going on in your life, but can you tell us how you're approaching your recruiting? Do you have a date set for when you want to pick a school?
No date set for picking any school at the moment. June is a big month for me as far as growth. So getting in the weight room, really getting my skills down, getting prepared to go into July, which is a big month as far as recruiting. Kind of same as years prior, but for me and my family, we handle the recruiting process as kind of a business and looking at it so that we can figure out where I want to go because I'd like to ideally commit to someplace and be there for 4 years. So just figuring that out. We have some spreadsheets as far as schools and what that means. But so more as a business standpoint for us is the recruiting process.
You Let me ask you this: as far as a college, what are you looking for in a school? Is there a certain? And that's kind of funny about the 4 years you want to stay there, because now with NIL you don't see that anymore. You used to see a player commit to a school and they'd be there for 4 years with that coach, and now it's rare to see a player stay all 4 years. It really is. Is there anything in particular you're looking for a major? You're into agriculture and a lot of different things besides just basketball. Is there anything you're looking for in a school that you would have your academics in mind there too? Was there anything you're looking for in particular?
For me, it really comes down to the people that are in the program. My dad and Becky, they played college basketball so that they know the tough days, they can be really hard. You're not always going to love college basketball. So I'm just trying to find a place and people that I can be there and be okay on the tough days. So,
Plus,
yeah.
I'm sure be able to compete for somewhat of a championship too. You're right about that. About college athletics, we had sisters that played at Eastern New Mexico softball in Western New Mexico, and they mentioned that their mother had told them that college athletics isn't always fun, and so I think that's a good point. And sometimes it can be a job. You're approaching it as a business, and it's probably wise that you are. Do you have a top five that you want to share with us, or you can leave that for another time if you want?
Unfortunately, I do not have a top five, but I will let you know when I do.
Okay.
All right, Harper, once again, thank you so much for joining us on Road to the Pit Live. We're speaking with Harper Dunn, star center from Corona Vaughn. Harper, wanted to shift gears and ask you a little bit about your life off the court. I know you participate in Future Farmers of America, FFA. You've been involved in several competitions that I think go year-round. What's that look like for you this summer?
So right now we have some steers that we're getting ready to show, and we'll show them in September and October at the state fair and then the New Mexico Eastern State Fair. And right now is just where we kick it into high gear and really start working with them and working with their hair and getting them where they need to be. So it's a big, busy time for steers.
I'm just curious how you do it, Harper. How you're able to participate in that. I imagine you're kicking butt in the classroom as well. To play the level of basketball that you play, playing for Team USA, playing at a high level for Corona Vaughn, and playing for Club Mocan in the summer. I mean, what's the secret? How is Harper Dunn able to do all of these things?
Definitely my support group, whether that be my high school coaches, my family, teachers, my ag teacher, of course, he plays a big role. My parents, I couldn't do it without them. They really are the best and the reason that I'm able to do all these things. So I can't take credit. It's definitely my support group.
And then speaking about your club Mocan, your club basketball in the summer circuit, EYBL, I imagine that's kind of in full swing. This is kind of the time of the year when players play on the EYBL and club basketball circuit. But can you tell us what that season is looking like for you, when you're going to be competing and those kinds of things?
Well, we actually we are switching it up a little bit. I've actually moved clubs to a closer club, Hardwood Elite in Denver. It was just makes more sense for our family as far as getting places. Kansas is really hard to get to. Um, So, and they had a smaller roster, so that would be easier. But yes, the travel time for Kansas was hard. So we're actually going to end up going to Denver this summer. So I'll work with the team there. Now I'm on the Adidas circuit. So I'll go to Cincinnati and then South Carolina.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, Harper. Last question. You got your junior year coming up. It's kind of a big year, 2 more years left of high school. What goals are you setting for yourself?
I just want to keep getting better as a player and grow my basketball IQ and continue to be a good teammate.
Yeah. Dad, any other questions for Harper?
Actually, I do. Harper, you mentioned the coaching you've received, and you speak like a coach. After you're said and done, it's a long way away. We have no idea if you're going to end up in, the pros or not. There's a chance of that. But after that's all said and done, do you have an interest in coaching yourself?
No, I think, I got to do the color commentating with you guys at the pit, and I'm so grateful. And that was such a positive experience. And I've really fallen in love. I love talking about basketball. I could talk about it for hours. And so thank you so much for that opportunity. I've really enjoyed it. So I'd like to probably pursue a career in color commentating.
You got to work with Brandon Ortega. You got to work with my son, and last year you got to work a game with me at the All-Star level at Volcano Vista. And, I know that, speaking for myself, and I think my son would agree, and I'm sure Brandon would too, you're a natural. You knew how to talk about the game and plays, and so you broke it down, I thought, very professionally. And I remember asking you to go down last year and go talk to the coaches, and you did. You did. You were a little shy about it, but you did. You got some information about it, and that's what you got to do. And I think someday they'll definitely, after it's all said, and that's going to be a very long time, young lady. You're not going to be done with this game for a long time. So appreciate that answer, and I thought you did a great job with Brandon and my son this year. So thanks
you
again for that. Yeah.
I'm very, very grateful for it, and it's been a super positive experience. And thank you guys. I've learned so much from you.
Of course, Harper. Of course, I got to ask, at least for next season, and some of this may be up in the air, but is the plan still to be, for the most part, that for the Corona Vaughn basketball season, that the boys and girls play on the same night, with the girls being first and then the boys playing in the nightcap? Is that how it's probably going to work next year?
Probably. I'm not sure about our boys team and their schedule, but if there is a boys team, that's, I believe, how it will be set up.
Yeah, well, hopefully they have a boys team, and I can envision a situation where ProView Networks brings down a crew to Corona Vaughn. We call your game, and then possibly for the boys game, if we could work it out with all the right players, we could get you on some color commentary there. We'll see if we can work it out. We'd love to do that with you, Harper. You're fantastic.
Thank you, and thank you so much for letting me join you guys tonight. It's a positive experience, and I have a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, Harper Dunn, once again, thank you so much for joining us. You take care and have a good night.
All righty. Thank you.
Thanks, Harper.
We're going to kick it to a quick commercial break and be right back on Road to the Pit Live.
time when every dollar counts, Capital Ford in Santa Fe is stepping up and offering employee pricing for everyone. Yes, employee pricing for everyone is now available on new Fords. You pay what Ford employees pay. Employee pricing means save up to $9,000 off MSRP on a new 25 Ford F-150, or save up to $4,800 off, plus 3.9% APR on a new 24 Ford Bronco. From America, for America. We're Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
All right, welcome back to Road to the Pit Live. Dad, Harper Dunn, man, just getting off a Team USA basketball tryout, all that she's accomplished this year. I thought she was great tonight.
You know, son, we interviewed her, 2 years ago, and you can see the growth physically as a person, as a young lady. And, I think one of the things I got to tell you, Nick, and you and I have shared basketball memories since you were 5-6 years old. So she has respect for the game, and I think that's really important. She could have an attitude and say, I'm on Team USA. She doesn't. She wants to learn. She wants to get better. But I think, like I said, anytime you put on that Team USA jersey and you have a chance to represent your country, it's quite an honor. And she held her own. She made the second cut. So a great experience. And you imagine competing against the best every day. It brings out the best in you. And love to hear about it. Loved her story. Loved how she's growing. And, you heard her. You mentioned the record, Nick, and about the block shot. And that's for all the state of New Mexico. And it doesn't mean anything to her, man. Stats don't mean anything. She wants to get better. She wants to win. Because if you start, thinking about stats and, you get bogged down and start thinking about how good you are. And so I think that's the thing that impresses me the most is she wants more, wants to get better. And not only in basketball, you mentioned about the agriculture and her grades. That's why, I forgot to ask her this. Anybody thinking, oh, she's going to move to La Cueva, come down? She's not going anywhere. That's exactly where she's staying at because, it's more than just basketball. It's about classes and agriculture and things she can do down there. So she's very happy, and I don't think we'll be seeing her, here in Albuquerque anytime soon. So I think Ryan Tamari. I think we got our next guest logged in. Is Ryan logged in? I think.
Yeah, and we got to give credit to Ryan for being behind the scenes, getting the graphics up, getting the pictures. The owner of the company, Ryan Tamari. Ryan, thank you, man.
Yeah, no, Makayla's on. I just wanted to chime in. I kept forgetting that she was about to be a junior in high school listening to that. I thought she would have just graduated college or something. It's pretty impressive. But Nick, I'll throw it to you for the next guest.
Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, I'm going to introduce our next guest. Our next guest on Road to the Pit is Highland senior Michaela Lovato, who just graduated last week. Michaela was a 6-sport athlete for Highland and earned more varsity letters than any student in Highland's rich 75-year history of athletics. During the 24-25 season, she competed in soccer, cross country, basketball, powerlifting, golf, track and field. She qualified for state in golf, powerlifting, cross country, and track and field, and competed at state with the Hornets basketball team. She graduated from Highland with a 4.7 GPA and is also a dance instructor and does some volunteering and community service. Makayla, welcome to the show, young lady.
Yes, thank you for having me.
I don't know how when I read that, you got to remember, I'm a Hornet, okay? Maybe an older Hornet. Your dad's a Hornet, man. When I read that, I got goosebumps because more than any Highland athlete in history. More letters. So amazing. I also want to introduce you to my son, our co-host, Nick Nunez. So Nick will be joining us and asking you questions as well as I will. Makayla, you just graduated. It seems like a whirlwind from Highland about a week ago. And as we had mentioned, you earned more varsity letters than any Highland athlete ever, and also had a 4.7 GPA. And I had to read this. I read it again today. Where in the world did you have find the time to compete in 6 sports, all the while maintaining a very high GPA? Where did you find the time for that?
Well, I was very lucky. I had a really good support system. So, having the supportive family who would take me places if I needed them to. And then also like the coaches. Everybody at Highland was super helpful and were willing to work with me. So I would go to, powerlifting in the morning, then I'd have marksmanship, and then I'd after school do, a different sport. So it was being able to have that support system behind me was really helpful. And then overall having that schedule, so I had pretty much a set schedule for every day that was like, this is what I have today, this is what I have coming up. So that was really helpful.
It's a lot of sports. You got to be at every practice, and you got to maintain a certain GPA to play sports, and you exceeded that. So when I read that, I was so impressed. You competed in 6 sports this season alone. Do you have a favorite sport of all the ones you competed in? Is there a favorite? I mean, it's going from one to the other, and they're all different. They're all powerlifting is very different than cross country, than basketball, track and field. So that's a lot of different ones. Was there one that was your favorite?
Honestly, I don't think I could choose just one. They were all awesome, and they all gave me different experiences. Like you said, they're all different. So having all those different experiences and trying those different things, there's a little piece in everything that I love, So I don't think I could narrow it down.
Man, different concentration and different skill sets for all those. And that's amazing. I got a quote here from Highland Athletic Director John Barnhill, who's a very good friend. Michaela's one of a kind. We were all a little worried that she was going to be to do all these sports and activities, much less at a high level. She proved us all wrong. Not only did she letter more than any student in the history of Highland, she did it with honors, qualifying for state and cross country, track, powerlifting, basketball, and golf. On top of all her ROTC commitments, she's an amazing young lady, a great person, honest, and trustworthy. She'll either be an astronaut or president of the United States. I wish her the best. And that's exciting, man. As me as a former Hornet hearing that, I'm like, hey, yeah, we gotta pump up our own, very much so. Son, go ahead.
Makayla, I wanted to ask you a little bit about kind of the pride and tradition that you feel in being a Highland Hornet. We had Amiri Mumba on probably about 10 months ago, and he talked to us about what it meant to him to, go to school at Highland, represent the school in multiple sports programs. You're in a very similar situation. Talk to us about the school pride that you see at Highland.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's huge. So we have all these students who, we do our sports and stuff. And if you notice, like, every student does multiple sports. Every student tries to participate at the school in some way or another. And so that pride that you're talking about, it's everywhere all the time. And I've been asked before, like, would you move schools? Would you go to somewhere else? And I wouldn't change it at all. Highland is so diverse and so different that it gives you these different opportunities, these different perspectives. And it's a completely different version of pride in that sense. So
yeah, for sure. And then switching gears a little bit, you're obviously involved in ROTC, so it makes sense that you would want to attend the U.S. Naval Academy. That's an awesome accomplishment. But I would imagine with the 4.7 GPA that you had quite a few schools, you kind of could pick which one you wanted to go to. How was it that you made the decision for the U.S. Naval Academy?
So I kind of always wanted to do a military academy. Didn't really narrow it down until this past summer, really, when I visited the Naval Academy. And so deciding between there and like other schools, it was hard. And I definitely had a lot of pros and cons lists and notebooks and stuff, figuring out what I really wanted to do and all this stuff. But the Naval Academy is something that I really want to do and I'm really excited for. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. One more question, then I'll turn it back to my dad. As far as being a freshman cadet, I think that's the right term. What are some of the requirements for that? I imagine that there's a physical component that comes to it, but can you share with us what you're expecting?
Yeah, so it's going to have rigorous academics. Obviously, there's going to be a military aspect of it, so different military bearing things, how you set up your room, those kind of things. And then there's also going to be like that physical aspect. So you have those tests, all that. And then every cadet is required to do some sort of like physical activity or sport. So whether it be club, intramural, or a varsity sport there. So.
Sure, Dad, I'll turn it to you.
Well, that shouldn't be a problem as far as the playing any sport. The discipline, that's that's a whole different thing. But you're going to be a freshman there, and they're going to bark and growl, right? I'm sure that's I don't think you're going to have one problem with that at all. I'm excited when I read that in the paper. I must have read it 3 times. Again, me being connected with Highland still. I'm on the Alumni Association and the chairperson of the Highland Hall of Fame. So when I read your accolades, more varsity letters than any athlete. We're just about to meet Tuesday to see who's going to be in our 3rd Highland Hall of Fame class. So when I saw that, I'm like, wow, because going back 75 years, some of that predates me and your father, who's a 94 graduate and loves Highland just as much as anybody I know. So when I read that, my wife was chiming in too. But one of the things that we wanted to ask you too, your father Phil is the head football coach at Highland, and your mother, is it Debbie?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned your support system, and Coach Lovato is there every day. You get to see him. You get to see him, and that support means a lot. I know it does. But your mother is your mom, man. You always tell my son that my son and I are very, very close. But I always tell him, hey, man, your mom is your mom, bro. I can't really, used to, mom is mom. Talk a little bit about the support. You're able to see Coach Lovato every day. That's got to help. You can go walk to him, and he does a great job there. We're going to get into something about him a little bit later. But talk about the support they both gave you. You mentioned your support system, and you don't have these kind of accolades without that support system.
Exactly. Yeah. So like you're right. My dad's there, so I was able to see him a lot, come visit him. If I needed that permission slip signed right away, I could just walk over and get it. But he's been very helpful in pushing me, especially through sports and stuff. Him being my throwing coach and powerlifting coach, especially over these course of these 4 years, has been really helpful. Because it's not just sports. You're learning different skills and stuff. So that's been really helpful, and it's been very nice to have that support from him. And then with my mom has always been there. If my dad was at football, my mom took me and my sisters wherever we needed to go. She's always helped us do our best and everything, and she's always there. And so having her, having my dad, having them both, always pushing me, always supporting me. Whenever I need something, whenever I needed help, like I know I could turn to them. And so having them there, having them support me now, even while I'm transitioning, it's really a blessing to have, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about it. I've also got a quote from Coach Lonnie Neal, who you played basketball for, and I think the world of Coach Neal, man. Me being on the Highland Alumni Association, I know most of the coaches, not all of them, but unbelievable work ethic and drive is what Coach Neal said. So I thought that was a great quote from Coach Neal. Son, your next question is yours.
Yeah, Makayla, so you were the recipient of the Chris Eaton Memorial Scholarship, which awarded you $10,000. James Yotis from the Albuquerque Journal put out a story where you kind of gave a quote and some more information about that. My understanding is that you donated a portion of that scholarship to some of the athletic programs at Highland. But tell us what it meant to receive that scholarship.
Yeah, it's a huge honor to get that scholarship. I was kind of surprised at first, but I'm just so grateful. You know, being a part of this foundation, being a part of like this mission that they're highlighting is super important, and it's so nice to be like a part of this family now. You know, and it's so grateful. It's gonna help so much over the years. So
Yeah. And then kicking it back to academics, what is it that you're planning on studying at the U.S. Naval Academy, and kind of what would you like to see yourself doing after academics are done?
yeah, I'm looking to study aerospace engineering actually, and I eventually want to become a pilot for the Navy. So that's exciting. Gonna be rigorous, that's for sure. But
Wow, well, that's something that's awesome, Michaela, to be able to do something like that. A lot of work, like you said, but you have a goal set in sight, and that's what's important. Dad, I'll turn it back to you.
You know, the academics always, you know, I told my son that when he went to St. Pius, I said, "You're not here to play basketball. You're here to get, you know, to get your education," and he did. Paid off. He's works for the Department of Justice. Real proud of that. You know, I this is a question I really thought about because you mentioned in the paper you had a great Highland experience, and I got goosebumps when I read that. I did. You know, again, I still live in the Highland District, man. I'm a Hornet through and through. So, you know, I wanted to ask you. We know that you and I both know this, and sometimes Highland suffers from a bad rap. But you mentioned Highland was a great experience for you. For you. Can you tell us why and what kind of courses you took? But more importantly, tell us why. Tell us why, and weave in those classes you took too.
yeah, so it also kind of goes back to that pride aspect that we were talking about. Again, Highland's completely different than any other school. You know, I've had friends who speak different languages, whether it be Spanish, Swahili, you know, so many different languages. And so that just adds on to it. And everybody's there, you know, everybody's going through the same schoolwork, you know, we have our groups and we're all there together. And so it's just, it's a different atmosphere, you know. And then for me, like what really made my experience great was honestly, you know, the different opportunities that I got. I got to do Senate. I got to do Science Olympiad. I got to do chess. I got to do all these sports. You know, I had opportunities to do different classes and stuff. And so having those opportunities to do that was, you know, it changed your experience. That's for sure. So,
You know, I was so glad when you said that about your Highland experience because, sometimes it bugs me when I hear bad things about Highland or people talking bad about Highland. They don't know. You mentioned that pride. You know, I wear it all over myself, man. Very much so, as does your dad. And, I've got to quote another one, and it's from Marco Harris, who, man, if you're lucky, but Marco Harris comes around once in your life. He did a great job as the principal over there. But this is what he said: Makayla is a true Hornet soul, grit, resilience, and humility of excellence. And I thought that was great. Again, Marco, he's not the principal anymore. He moved up at APS, but I thought he made a huge difference there. And Mr. Otero, the new principal, is doing a great job too. But I thought Mr. Harris did I think the people inside Highland, including your dad being there, coaching and teaching, make a huge difference there. I really do.
definitely.
I got to ask you this because this is and your dad probably wouldn't want me to ask this, but he's the football coach there, and he took Highland to the quarterfinals for the first time in many years. And Highland football back in the day, right? You weren't born. Your dad was a heck of a player in '94. What did that mean to you? I mean, it was a source of pride for a lot of us. I was really excited for him. What did that mean to you as his daughter that, hey, he took him to the quarterfinals for the first time in a very long time. Miri Mumba, one of the best players in the state, no doubt about it. But as his daughter, what did that mean to you?
It was really exciting, actually. And it was definitely that moment where it's like, look, Highland isn't what everybody thinks, because nobody knows Highland. And so, making it to the quarterfinals. You know, we might not have the strongest guys, we might not have the tallest guys, but you know, with our school and with the group that we have, you know, making it is awesome. It was so exciting. And you know, having my dad be there and coaching and all that is just, you know, it makes me proud as a daughter.
Yeah.
You know, so
And, you know, yeah, Hornet pride, right? I mean, we talk about that. He's your dad, and you know, there you have to separate that when he's your coach. I used to coach my son, and I don't think anybody made me more mad than my son did, because you know, sometimes he listens and sometimes he didn't. But that's you know, it's got had to have made you proud. Coach Lovato did a wonderful job, you know, with the team. But you mentioned strength, right? About some of the guys. I'll tell you what, Amiri Mumba, I saw him throw one guy to the ground with one arm, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, geez, man, this guy is this. He's so. And we talk about Highland running backs, and as I mentioned, it goes back, you know, years and years. And he was one of the best running backs I ever saw play at Highland. I don't care what year it was. You know, that guy might have been. Yeah, I couldn't believe when Coach Lovato told me he lost in wrestling to a freshman, and the freshman from West Las Vegas had to have been how strong had, you know, to take Amiri down. He got him by his legs. That's what Coach said, because I had to ask him twice. He lost. But when you mentioned strength, Amiri Mumba might have been one of the strongest Highland football players, wrestlers, power lifters that ever was. No doubt.
definitely. Yeah, we have some amazing athletes here at Highland, you know, amazing athletes and some amazing like academic people. So it's really exciting to see people succeed coming from Highland.
Well, you know what, young lady? Look in the mirror, man. You just succeeded and exceeded, you know, more than and remember that. And I had to say that with emphasis. More letters than any Highland athlete in history. That's incredible to me. It really is. And you know, Chris Eaton, the late Chris Eaton, was a very good friend. A very good friend. I loved him. I did. I was sad when he passed away. So I'm glad that you're the recipient of that scholarship. Son, do you got any more questions for Makayla?
Last one, Michaela, you know, I noted that you're part of the chess club, and I got to say, I mean, I know how to play chess. I know how the pieces move, but I will get smoked by anyone that I play. Is that a hobby that you plan to continue into college and into adulthood?
Yeah, definitely on the side. I've been playing chess since I was in kindergarten, you know, so it's just kind of come through the years. It's always there. And it's something to fall back onto, something fun to do, you know?
Yeah,
So,
definitely. Dad, I'll throw it to you.
We got one last one, and I had to, you know, read again all your activities. With your schedules full as it was, how did you have time to practice, study, be a dance instructor also, volunteer in the community? How were you able to keep track of all that and have time for that? And again, I think, Makayla, you're a testament to people, to kids that say, I can't, it's too hard. You did it. You excelled. You exceeded. So how in the heck did you keep all that? Even, you know, you were able to volunteer in the community as well, give back. How'd you manage to do that? And again, I think it's a testament. Tell young people it can be done. You did it.
yeah, there's always opportunities to do things. There's always chances. For me, again, I was lucky. I had a lot of people who were willing to work with me, you know, and I had that weekly schedule. So using the weekends, using that time outside of school and managing, you know, when I'm going to do sports, when I'm going to do, you know, dance, when I'm going to work on schoolwork, study. So definitely looking at that week and like having that routine, you know, and that was super helpful in it all.
I think one of the things that you mentioned, time management, that's important, because look at the things you did. You can't do that without great time management. You know, and you're not a procrastinator. Obviously, I was the worst procrastinator there was. You know, I really was. Tomorrow I'll get it. And, you know, I work better under pressure, but I certainly was not the time manager. And I think that's probably another thing that people can, you know, young people can learn from you. Years from now, there'll be people still talking about what you did here, man. This is huge, but it's not over, man. You still got work to do. Still got things to accomplish. And, you know, because of the support system that you mentioned, your mother and your father and the people at Highland, I was so glad to hear that. I really was. There's darn good people at Highland, man. And, you know, you made sure that people knew that. So, Michaela Lovato, once again, we sure appreciate you being our guest on Road to the Pit. And, we wish you all the, can't wait to see, Coach Barnhill says you could be an astronaut or president of the United States. Keep reaching for the sky. We couldn't be prouder to have had you on tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for letting me talk with you all.
I know it's our pleasure. Son, you got anything else?
No. Best of luck to you, Makayla. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I don't know if Ryan tomorrow is going to log back in here or not. If not, son, what do you think? I mean, she's amazing. She's amazing to me, Nick. And Nick, I'm your dad, so I'm a proud Hornet, man. You know that, a proud Hornet. So when I read that, I read that in the paper. I was like, your mother was even more like amazed. And I think the sports is great. More letters than any Highland athlete ever, which Nick goes back 75 years. But it's the academics, 4.7 GPA, all the things she did. It can be done. You really have to have the determination and grit, to do what she did, but it can be done with good support.
No doubt. And I mean, just like our first guest, Harper Dunn, I mean, Makayla, the first thing she did was give credit to her support system, her mother, her father, her coaches, the people around her. It's true humility like that from girls like Makayla and Harper Dunn that really kind of embodies what it is to be a phenomenal student athlete. I mean, just looking at Makayla's schedule, man, 6 varsity letters, a 4.7 GPA, ROTC, dance instructor. I don't know how you can do all that in 24 hours. I mean, how do you do that without sleeping? It takes a special person. And just, that she seems kind, when you talk to her, she's humble, she's kind. So she was a great guest. I'm glad you brought her on.
One of the things that Coach Lovato said to me too, he, who I've known a while. I've interviewed Coach Lovato more than once, and he knows I'm all behind Highland, man. He knows that. But he said it was never about, bragging about her, never about that. But when I saw that, I'm like, gosh, we have to brag on that. We have to, especially me being a Hornet, Nick. I had to, that one there. I think I got goosebumps when I read more letters than any Highland athlete ever. And Nick, there has been some amazing athletes. I don't know if we can put some comments on. Eric Moulton, we didn't get to this. Harper, what part of your game do you think you need to focus on after experiencing the high-level competition? There it is. And okay, so yeah, what part of your game do you think you need to focus on after experiencing the high-level competition of USAW hoops? And Nick, just knowing her, she's going to work on more things, rebounding. That's her thing, rebounding and defense. Offense, I think, will come later. John Romero, thank you to the Pit Press for bringing awareness to Harper Dunn, who has potential to be one of the greatest female basketball players that has ever come out of the state of New Mexico. And I don't think that's not, son, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. To Eric Moulton, who's behind the scenes, one of the owners of the company, does so much for the Pit Press. We would not be here without him. We didn't get the chance to ask Harper that. I did ask her, kind of what her goals were. And she had mentioned getting in the weight room. I think when you play with Team USA basketball, and you also see this from some of the tweets that her father, Blair Dunn, put out, you're playing against girls that are bigger, stronger, more physical. So I think, that piece of her game to get ready for the D1 level, the speed, the athleticism, the size, she's playing against girls that are as tall as her or near her height. So I think there's a physical component to getting ready. As far as what I've seen from Harper Dunn, I saw her play against Alamo Navajo live. That was almost 2 years ago. And then, if folks kind of want some footage of her playing, you can go to the NFHS network. At least one of her games against Fort Sumner House this year is available on the NFHS network. You got to pay for a subscription. In that game, she had 24 points, 26 rebounds. Harper is an elite shot blocker. KOAT had some footage of her when she broke the record for most blocked shots in a career. She had 8 blocks in that game. She's an elite shot blocker. She's got instincts where she knows where the ball is going up, and she does it without fouling. Mm-hmm. That's going to translate to any level of basketball, the EYBL circuit, the Adidas circuit, Division I college basketball, maybe the WNBA. She is an elite shot blocker. One thing I've saw just from that 50-second clip from KOAT, she's got a physical presence with the ball. There's one clip where she grabs a rebound and clears it. So you can tell that physical part of her game has grown. And then she can also score in a variety of ways on the offensive end of the floor. She can play with her back to the basket. She can turn and face. I think she's extending her range a little bit as well. So I think all of those areas of her game will continue to grow as she continues to develop. She's playing on the Adidas circuit now, so she's going to play against some high level competition. And then to John Romero's comment, I mean, I think we can safely say now that she's probably one of the best basketball players to ever walk through the state of New Mexico. And yeah, she plays in the 1A classification, but she averages 22 points, 19.8 rebounds, and 7.5 blocks a game. I mean, Dad, those are Wilt Chamberlain numbers. I don't know if any high school basketball player in the state of New Mexico has put up those kind of numbers. I mean, we'd have to look at the history books. So I think it's safe to say that she's certainly cementing herself as one of the best women's basketball players to ever come through the state of New Mexico.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think you're right, especially about the shot blocking, because she said this 2 years ago. I just don't go for her dad, Abe Blair Dunn, had told her, don't go for every block. You'll get foul trouble. And there's an art to blocking shots. The late Bill Russell could block shots really well. Dikembe Mutombo at the pro level. What do they call Rudy Gobert? The Stifle Tower. He's so good at blocking shots. And it changes things, son. You know that. Anybody who wants to drive to the basket, you got a good rim protector. Anyway, I'm really impressed by her. And we got another comment about Michaela Lovato. And Makayla, thank you for sharing your athletic experiences. This is from John Romero again at Highland High School. The sky undoubtedly the limits in terms of your future career and additional athletic endeavors. You already have my future vote for President of the United States. So, she's going to West Point, and, Nick wants to be a pilot. I think the sky's the limit as far as what she's going to accomplish with a 4.7 GPA. And, I thought talking about her, I thought she was pretty humble as far as what she's accomplished as well, and still wanting to accomplish more.
For sure. And another thing she said, and she said it a couple times, was just the pride and tradition that she feels being a Highland Hornet. I referenced that time when we had Amiri Mumba on. I think it was either in August of September of last year. And I remember him saying something to that same effect of, I'm proud to be at Highland. Everyone thinks that we're a school in the ghetto. But if you look at Highland athletics, Dad, they actually had a pretty darn good year. Football team gets to the quarterfinals. Boys basketball team gets to the state championship. How many individual state qualifiers did they have in powerlifting and in wrestling? I think, what Coach Barnhill has done over there with Highland athletics, they're competitive in many sports across the board. So I was really impressed by the pride that she feels being a Highland Hornet.
Yeah, you know what? She really did. And I thought, Nick, to wrap it up tonight, I thought we had two great guests with Harper Dunn and Michaela Lovato. We were able to highlight two great female athletes in the state of New Mexico, and two great academic. They get after the grades too, man, and that's more important than anything. So, unless you got anything else, then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, no, just from our producer, Ryan Tamari, also from Eric Moulton. Please tune in this week. We've got 3 shows coming your way. On Tuesday at 8 p.m., we'll be live with the Pit Press Live. And then on Wednesday, we're starting a new series, and we've mentioned this on a couple of our other shows, but we're partnering with 505 Sports Venture for a summer series that's called Together We Howl. And the goal is we're going to have some folks from the UNM Athletic Department kind of highlights what UNM Athletics is doing over the summer. Obviously revenue sharing and kind of paying college athletes and all of those kinds of topics. We hope to cover some of that. On Tuesday, our guest is going to be former UNM baseball coach Ray Birmingham. We're also going to have Nate Strong from the UNM Athletic Department on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, the Together We Howl series, we're going to have the UNM football GM, Bo Davidson. So a reminder to our listeners, please tune into us on YouTube, X, Facebook. Check us out at the Pit Press NM. Please subscribe to our content. We've got lots of video content in the live tab. And then we also have a website. Check it out, thepitpressnm.com. We've got lots of written content in the news and commentary and the Pit Press Plus. So please subscribe. Please like. We would really appreciate it. Dad, anything else?
You know what's up? Yeah, I'll wrap us up on this one. But, I think just the things that you mentioned that's coming up. You mentioned the Howl show, the written content. And we talked about this. We had a meeting yesterday. And I think this is a program, the Pit Press Live, it's growing and it's only going to get bigger. And so for all the listeners and all the people that have subscribed and follow us, and you've provided a lot of written content. Eric Moulton has. Ryan Tamari plans to write more. I think it's something that's growing. Nick, I'm sure glad you joined us a couple years ago. So again, great transition into what we have coming up this week. That's going to do it for Road to the Pit. For my co-host Nick Nunez, producer Ryan Tamari, I'm Ed Nunez. So we'll see you next time on the Pit Press Live Road to the Pit.